Hello everyone and welcome to Whisky Wednesday. I'm going to cut to the chase here because I'm feeling a little bit under the weather. I want this video to be quick. This is Tobermory 12-year-old. I love Ledaig, which isn't the same as Tobermory. It's Tobermory, but it's peated. For 6 months of the year they make Ledaig, for 6 months of the year they make Tobermory. Both bottled at 46.3%, unless you buy cash strength versions. Ledaig has a 10-year-old, this is a 12-year-old. It doesn't state anywhere that it isn't natural colour, but that's a pretty solid colour. I could believe that it is natural colour. Non-chill filtered, all that good stuff. Gently sweet, unpeated and floral. Because I'm such a fan of Ledaig, I feel like I've neglected Tobermory a little bit. Brief history of this distillery. It's one of the oldest distilleries in Scotland, established in 1798 on the Isle of Mull, which is most famous for whiskey, but also for a kids' TV show called Tobermory. All those multicoloured houses on the front, there's a whiskey distillery around the corner. The distillery was originally called Ledaig, and it used to be a kind of a lighthouse point. I forget what Ledaig translates to from Gaelic, but I think it means like welcome or something like that, or peace from the water, something like in that vein. It was changed to Tobermory on a date that I can't remember, and since then it's just been known as the Tobermory Distillery. Another fun fact, that this distillery is so small that they can only store 4 casks, and 2 of them are 1968 Ledaigs and 2 of them are 1968 Tobermorys. I would give someone else's body parts to try those whiskies. But anyway, Tobermory 12, it's been in the glass for quite a while. I bought this a couple of days ago for 48 quid, so good value for a 12-year-old at that percentage. And I just thought to myself, need to give it a go. Need to see what's happening in Tobermory world. Because when you think of Isle of Mull, I just think of Ledaig. So, to smell it. I mean, the label isn't too wrong. It's unpeated, it's gentle, and it's particularly floral. What this reminds me of in a big way is ginger beer. There are elements of sweetness, soft spiciness. It's fully matured in all ex-bourbon casks. I'm 100% sure this doesn't touch any sherry. Apologies if you hear snoring in the background. My dog is asleep just over there. There are these candle, waxy, lily kind of notes. And almost like the smell of olive oil. It's floral and sweet, but there are some kind of like cooking, savoury elements to this. There's some classic notes in there of like apple, vanilla. The nose does actually remind me a little bit of like apple crumble. Kind of biscuity top to it, soft stewed apple. There's a nice dark chocolate note to it. Slightly bitter, slightly more intense. But even with that, there is a saltiness. It's an island distillery, so there's going to be a little bit of that. But, and I opened this in work and tried it with some colleagues, and as we were just sampling it, we were like, even though it's this light floral, very opposite style of whiskey to Ledaig, there is something a little bit industrial right down the middle of it. And I don't know if that's like the saltiness mixing in with this kind of waxiness that it has, because I'll tell you what, that's not a million miles away from the first time I ever smelled Clynelish 14. It's in that ballpark. Does this have a bottling date? No, it doesn't. It has one of its own sort of custom codes on the bottom, but not a specific bottling date. Just in case any of you are curious, I'm unsure. But yeah, there's this nice industrial, almost petrochemical thing to it, which I know some of you may not be interested in, but for those of you that are fans of Clynelish and Ben Nevis, no peat in it, but it's got some funky tones. Also, the light is brilliant in here today. Coming through just perfect. yeah, it leads more this kind of West Coast way. I'll be honest, it doesn't have a sweet floral taste to it. This is the first whiskey I've tried today. It's the first whiskey I've tried in a couple of days, actually. But all the sweetness is on the nose. The taste is very much akin to Ben Nevis bottlings. It has these savoury, slightly kind of metallic, bordering into sulphury tones, which is really weird because there's no sherry in it. But that could link back to this petrochemical thing I was talking about. An industrialness, a funkiness, a savoury, salty meatiness to it. In all honesty, this thing is doing stuff that is very reminiscent of Bruichladdich, Ben Nevis, Springbank, but without being smoky. Really not sweet at all on the palate. That salty note, which is again coming in with a kind of olive oil note to it, but there is also some kind of darker, deeper things in it. And I want to use the word truffle. I want to use the word truffle, and I want to use the word parmesan, especially on the finish. Deep, rich, dark kind of flavour profiles. The finish is all dark chocolate. It is slightly bitter, but vaguely sweet. Considering that's not got one drop of peat in it, that is an exceptionally savoury, coastal, intense kind of whiskey. Is it as unusual as Glengarry 12, which for the minute is kind of like my shining light of 2023 so far? It's very different, despite being similar ABVs, similar ages, very different cask selections. This is quite unique and it stands out, and I feel really bad for being behind the times on Tobermory. I feel a little bit kind of guilty, for want of a better phrase. But that is an exceptionally interesting and different kind of whiskey. I don't think those savoury, rancino, parmesan-y notes are going to be for everyone, especially not on the finish, because it really has this really licoricey gentian root, Angostura bitters, ginger, dark chocolate, vanilla, salt thing going on at the back. Very different, very, very interesting, and makes me want to try older bottles of Tobermory 12 just to see what's actually going on with them. Side note, and obviously we're all aware of price increases in whiskey. The company that owns Tobermory, Distillery, same company that owns Deanston and Bunnahabhain and Black Bottle. Their malts, Bunnahabhain in particular, I know a lot of people have seen some severe batching issues and the price has gone up, especially on the older ones. This isn't an older whiskey, it's relatively young and pretty average in terms of its the kind of ABVs we review and the ages that we review on Whisky Wednesday. But I think for the money, like sub 50 quid, that's still a really, really good bottle of whiskey. So much so, and it's so different, I'm actually going to strongly give it a 9, because that's the most challenging and interesting 12-year-old whiskey that I've tried in quite a long time. And if you like old Ben Nevis bottlings, if you are a fan of Ledaig, if you're a fan of Springbank, even when you couldn't find it, if you like Ben Romack too, this is sitting in that territory. You know, it's kind of mulling around and trying to figure out, well, mulling around for want of a better phrase there. It's kind of doing its own thing for sure. I wonder if batches that all of you have tried are a little bit sweeter. Perhaps they are more sort of pear and apple driven, but mine is particularly savoury and a bit funky, and I quite like it. I wonder if the camera will pick up the code on it. Maybe not. Yeah, I don't think it will. But anyway, that's my review of Tobermory 12-year-old. I don't feel particularly well. That could also be impacting this review. I haven't really thought about that too much, but I can still smell and taste stuff. So that's good. That's the first thing I've really done today. I'm going to go and have lunch, but I will see you all soon. That's Tobermory 12. That's a 9 out of 10. If you haven't tried it, highly recommend it. It is very different, very unique, very affordable, and something hopefully which hasn't been on your radar yet. But I'll see you all soon. Have a good day. Cheers.